The favor that changed everything. My name is Elliot, and just 3 months ago, I was packing up the last of my things into the back of my aging Honda Civic, unsure of where I was going or who I even was anymore. My startup had failed. My girlfriend had left, graciously calling it a mutual breakup when it clearly wasn't, and my lease was up with nowhere else to go. That's how I ended up on my old friend Riley's doorstep, suitcase in hand and pride already packed away. Riley was one of those people who always seemed put together, always crisp suits, immaculate nails, and a confidence that could silence a boardroom. She'd been my friend since college, and we'd stayed in touch through the years despite our wildly different careers. She was a senior consultant at a luxury real estate firm, and I was, well, unemployed. Riley offered me her guest room without hesitation. "Just until you find your footing," she had said, pouring wine into 2 oversized glasses. No strings. No expectations. Of course, it wasn't that simple. Riley's boyfriend, Mark, wasn't thrilled about me moving in. He was polite to my face, but I could feel the tension. It wasn't until a week later that Riley pulled me aside and confessed, "I may have told Mark that you're gay." It just made things easier. I blinked. "Riley, I'm not." "I know," she said quickly, "and I'm not asking you to be anything you're not. Just, don't correct him. I need peace in the house. Can you manage that?" I sighed. "You're lucky I'm too broke to argue." For the first couple of weeks, things were awkward. Mark would crack jokes and throw the occasional "sass queen" comment my way, and I'd respond with the world's tightest forced laugh. Riley was barely home. Her work had her constantly on the move, and when she was home, she was buried in emails and client calls. I started picking up the slack around the house, grocery runs, laundry, cleaning, cooking. It was the least I could do. But the real change came one evening when I found Riley swearing at her laptop, red-faced and teetering on the edge of a breakdown. "I hate this admin crap," she muttered. "Invoices, appointments, tracking commissions, none of this is selling. It's dragging me down." I offered to help. "Just a little data entry," I said. I used to handle the financials at my startup, so I wasn't unfamiliar with spreadsheets and CRM systems. To my surprise, she took me up on it. That night, I filed expenses, organized her client database, and even cleaned up her chaotic inbox. Riley stared at me like I'd just offered her salvation. "You're hired," she said with a grin. We came to an agreement. I'd become her unofficial assistant in exchange for staying rent-free. The hours were short, the work easy, and the pressure non-existent compared to the chaos I'd known in the startup world. There was only one unusual condition. "I have a very specific image at my firm," Riley explained one day as she sat cross-legged on the couch in a silk robe, sipping green tea. "Everyone assumes I have a female assistant. It's been that way for years. My clients are used to it. Even my firm's brochure says her assistant, Eliza, handles client support. So, I need you to be Eliza. Just in emails and phone calls. Not in person." I laughed. "So you want me to be your ghost secretary?" She smiled. "Exactly. Just a voice and a signature." I shrugged. "Sure. I've been called worse." The strange part was how easy it became. I developed a soft, customer service voice. I practiced it on voicemail recordings, refined it during calls, and before long, Eliza was fielding inquiries, booking appointments, and charming clients. Mark, of course, overheard one of the calls and walked by snickering, "You sound prettier than half the girls in my office." I forced a laugh, but Riley beamed. "That's the point." But the lines started to blur when Riley returned from a 3-day trip and said, "I'm bringing you to the quarterly networking dinner. It's at the Lakeside Club, invitation only. I need you there as Eliza." I stared. "You want me to go in person?" Riley gave me a look. "You've already got the voice. All we need is a little polish. It's 3 weeks away. Let me handle everything. Trust me." Everything in me wanted to scream no, but I also remembered what being jobless and invisible felt like. Riley was offering me a new identity, a new way to belong. So I agreed. Kind of. "Fine," I said. "I'll try. But if I look ridiculous, I'm backing out." Her eyes sparkled. "Deal. But when I'm done with you, Elliot won't exist. Everyone will see Eliza." That weekend, the transformation began. First came the closet purge, well, closet expansion, really. Riley took me shopping under the guise of buying gifts for a cousin. At every boutique and department store, she picked out pencil skirts, silk blouses, tailored blazers, foundation garments I didn't even know how to pronounce, and of course, heels. So many heels. Then came the grooming. Eyebrow shaping. Subtle nail work. She handed me books on posture, YouTube tutorials on voice training, and insisted I spend at least 2 hours a day in a trial outfit. Each day, she snapped a photo and critiqued everything from my neckline to my gait. Less stomp, more glide, she'd say, smirking. And stop clenching your fists like you're about to duel someone. In the mirror, I barely recognized myself. The makeup did most of the work: softened jawline, bold brows, luscious lips. Add a shoulder-length brunette wig and a silk blouse tucked into a fitted skirt, and suddenly, Eliza was real. Too real. I was starting to disappear. But this was only the beginning. Because Riley had a secret reason for dragging me to that networking dinner. One that would change everything. And I wouldn't discover it until it was far too late to back out. The dinner invitation that wasn't what it seemed. 3 weeks passed like a blur, or maybe like a slow-motion car crash. Every day, Riley pushed the limits of what I thought I could do, or wear, or even be. I was Elliot only when I locked myself in the bathroom, staring into the mirror and wondering what I was doing with my life. The rest of the time, I was Eliza. Eliza who always wore heels around the house. Eliza who practiced walking up and down the hallway balancing a hardcover on her head. Eliza who answered Riley's calls with a gentle, honey-smooth voice and ended emails with a soft, warm regards. The problem wasn't that it wasn't working. The problem was that it was. One night, Riley came into my room holding a garment bag like it was the Ark of the Covenant. "What's that?" I asked cautiously. She grinned. "Your final form." She unzipped the bag and revealed a stunning black cocktail dress. It shimmered faintly under the light, the fabric catching shadows in all the right ways. It had capped sleeves, a soft V-neckline, and a perfectly cinched waist. "It's a designer knockoff," she said. "But it photographs like the real thing. Try it on." 20 minutes later, I was in full war paint, bold eyeshadow, sculpted cheeks, wine-red lips. The corset squeezed me into a wasp-waist hourglass. The heels added height and vulnerability. When I looked in the mirror, I had no clever comment. Just silence. "You ready for Thursday night?" Riley asked. I blinked. "It's really happening, huh?" "Oh, it's happening," she said. "But there's something I need to tell you." That's when she dropped the bomb. The networking dinner wasn't just a social event. It was also a company mixer for Riley's firm. Her CEO, senior partners, and some of her wealthiest clients would be attending. And not just attending, watching. "You didn't tell me that," I said, voice sharp. "Because I knew you'd say no," she said without apology. "And because I need this, Eliza. You're the key." My head spun. "Why me?" "Because the firm's been looking to promote someone to partner. And I need to look like I have a real team. Someone reliable. Someone polished. Someone who can work a room while I work the numbers." I stepped back. "So I'm a prop now?" "No," she said, taking my hands. "You're more than that. You're the person who helped me double my revenue this quarter. You're the one who built systems, tracked my clients, organized my entire backend. They think I'm some kind of machine, but you're the engine. And Thursday night, you're going to shine." I should have said no. I wanted to say no. Instead, I whispered, "Then I guess I'd better learn to smile." Thursday night. We pulled up to the Lakeside Club, one of those marble and mahogany places where even the valet had better shoes than me. The heels felt impossibly tall. The night air tickled my freshly shaved legs. The clutch in my hand held nothing but lipstick, a breath mint, and a vague sense of impending doom. Riley looked flawless in a wine-red sheath dress, her hair swept up like she belonged on the cover of a lifestyle magazine. "Stay close," she whispered. "And smile like you mean it." Inside, the ballroom was glowing with soft golden light, champagne glasses clinking, jazz music humming in the background. Everyone was sleek, polished, deadly. Eliza, right? Said a sharp-eyed woman with diamond earrings and a clipboard. We've heard so much about you. I blinked. All good things, I hope. She laughed. Riley said you were charming. She undersold you. One after another, they came. Clients. Executives. Real estate royalty. All extending hands, complimenting my poise, asking for my card. And I kept up the act charming, graceful, efficient. Until he walked in. Mark. Riley's boyfriend. The one who believed I was just a harmless gay bestie crashing in their guest room. He was supposed to be on a guy's weekend, somewhere in the mountains with no cell reception. And yet, there he was. In a tailored suit. With his arm around a blonde. And he saw me. Our eyes locked for a half-second too long. I felt my blood turn to ice. His jaw dropped. The blonde at his side said something, but he didn't respond. Then his expression shifted from confusion to suspicion, to calculation. Riley appeared at my side like a guardian angel. Eliza, darling, could you get us another round? She said brightly. I nodded, heels clicking as I retreated to the bar. My hands were shaking. If Mark said anything, if he outed me, I was done. Everything Riley had built would be tainted. Her promotion could be in jeopardy. My job gone. And worse? I didn't want it to end. At the bar, I stared at my reflection in the mirrored wall behind the glasses. I didn't see Elliot anymore. Just Eliza. Perfect makeup. Perfect poise. But under it all, panic. Martini. Dirty, came a voice next to me. It was Mark. He leaned against the bar, looking me up and down. Well. You clean up nice. I said nothing. You know, he murmured, for someone who's supposedly not into girls, you sure had me fooled. Guess Riley's not the only one playing dress up. Still I said nothing. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Does she know how good you look in that dress? Don't, I said softly. What? He said, smirking. Don't flirt? Or don't expose you. That's when Riley appeared again, handing me a napkin. We're being seated soon. Let's go. Mark raised an eyebrow. Don't worry. I won't say a word. I know a good con when I see one. And just like that, he vanished into the crowd. The dinner went smoothly, but I barely tasted the food. My mind was a storm. I wasn't just scared of Mark exposing me. I was terrified of what it would mean if he didn't. Because if he stayed silent, if I stayed in this role, if Riley got her promotion, then what was I? A man pretending to be a woman for a job? Or something else entirely? That night, back at home, I wiped off my makeup in silence. Riley sat on the edge of my bed, watching me. You okay? She asked. No, I whispered. She nodded. I know. But you did incredible tonight. You weren't just passable, you were unforgettable. I looked at her. What if I'm not pretending anymore? She smiled sadly. Then I think the question is, are you ready to find out who Eliza really is? The morning after the masquerade. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw myself in that black cocktail dress, heels clicking on marble floors. Mark's knowing smirk. Riley's hand on my back, steering me through the evening like I was some living, breathing prop. I told myself it was just a role. Just a disguise. But that excuse was cracking, just like the illusion that I still had one foot in my old life. The truth was, Elliot, the guy who used to wear flannel shirts and code late into the night, hadn't been seen in weeks. Eliza had taken over. And I wasn't sure I wanted her to stop. The next morning, I came downstairs in a loose sweater dress and 3-inch heels, because by now, walking without a heel felt off. Riley was already at the table, her laptop open, a stack of client reports to one side and a green smoothie in her hand. She looked up at me with a warm smile. There she is. My miracle assistant. I poured myself some coffee, avoiding her gaze. We need to talk. She nodded. About Mark. My stomach clenched. What does he know? Enough, she said, shutting the laptop. But he's not going to say anything. Trust me. Why? Because you terrify him. She smirked. He realized something last night. You don't just look the part, you are the part. You passed in a room full of sharks and left with half of them wanting to hire you. That kind of power scares people like him. I sipped my coffee. So, what now? She hesitated. There's something you should know. Last night, the managing partner of my firm offered me an official partnership. They're restructuring the top tier, and I'll be overseeing a new luxury division. Which means you want me to come with you, I said quietly. As Eliza. Full-time. Public-facing. I stared at her. Riley, that's not who I really am. She tilted her head. Are you sure? That afternoon, I walked through downtown like a ghost. I wasn't dressed as Eliza. Just jeans and a hoodie, no makeup. No corset. No heels. But it felt wrong. I caught my reflection in a boutique window and saw a stranger. The soft features I'd grown used to were gone. My lips looked bare and colorless. My posture slouched. My confidence vanished. I ducked into a side alley and sat on a bench, head in my hands. Was I seriously considering this? Living full-time as Eliza? Taking a job that would require me to be seen as her always? I should have been terrified. But underneath the fear was something else. A whisper I hadn't let myself hear until now. You don't want to go back. That evening, Riley found me sitting on the floor of her walk-in closet, surrounded by clothes. You okay? She asked gently. I held up a pair of red stilettos. Why does this feel more me than my old boots ever did? She knelt beside me. Because maybe, this is you. I laughed bitterly. So I'm what? A fraud? A guy pretending to be a girl to keep a job. She shook her head. No. You're someone who's discovering who they are piece by piece. You think I haven't seen the way you check your lipstick before a Zoom call? Or how you light up when someone compliments your shoes? I didn't answer. Riley reached for something behind her, a small, neatly wrapped box. I was going to save this for when you signed your official contract. But I think you need it now. Inside was a gold nameplate necklace. It read, Eliza. I stared at it. It sparkled like it had been waiting for me all along. The next week, Riley started her new role as partner. And I walked into the luxury division office beside her, in a cream blouse, navy pencil skirt, flawless red lip, and heels that clicked like thunder on the marble tiles. Every head turned. Who's that? I heard someone whisper. That's Eliza, Riley said proudly. My executive coordinator. And no one questioned it. Not one. But just as I started to settle into this new life, a message appeared in my inbox. Urgent. Client complaint. From mark.lambert@claremontventures.com to eliza.rains@rileyestates.com. Subject, you owe me a favor. I froze. It wasn't over. Mark wasn't done. And the cost of his silence? Was about to come due. The price of a secret. The email sat open on my screen like a landmine. Subject, you owe me a favor. I've kept your little secret, Eliza. Now it's time you return the courtesy. There's a client I need you to help me win over. Dinner. Friday night. You're my date. Wear something persuasive. Mark. My hands trembled as I reread it. Mark hadn't said anything since that night at the Lakeside Club. No confrontation. No blackmail. No smug remarks. But I'd been naive to think he'd let it go. He didn't want to expose me. He wanted to use me. I showed the message to Riley that evening. She read it, sighed, and pinched the bridge of her nose. He's scum, she muttered. I should have dumped him a year ago. I can't do this, I said, panic rising in my chest. I'm not some trophy he can show off to win deals. No, you're not, she said. But you're also not powerless. I frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Riley leaned in. If you go to that dinner, it'll be on your terms. You don't just show up as eye candy. You show up as a storm in stilettos. Charm his client. Own the room. And make Mark realize just how dangerous it is to underestimate you. It was a bold plan. And it terrified me. But so did letting him hold this over me forever. Friday night. I wore a deep emerald wrap dress Riley picked out herself. It hugged all the right places and shimmered under low lighting. She insisted I go bold with makeup, dramatic winged eyeliner, high-arched brows, scarlet lips. Eliza doesn't hide, she said. She walks in and makes everyone adjust their expectations. The car ride to the restaurant was silent. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest like a drumline. Mark was already seated when I arrived. He stood when he saw me, blinking once, twice. Eliza, he said, forcing a smirk. You clean up even better than I remember. I sat across from him. Let's just get this over with. The client arrived 5 minutes later. Gavin Ward, venture capitalist. Expensive watch. Slick hair. Charming in a manufactured, Wall Street kind of way. He took one look at me and grinned. Mark didn't tell me his assistant was also a model. I smiled politely. That's because I'm not his anything. I work for Riley Kessler. I'm here as a favor. Mark flinched. Gavin chuckled. Fiery. I like her already. Dinner was pleasant enough. Gavin talked shop, and I played along, asking insightful questions Riley had prepped me with. But every now and then, Mark's hand would graze my thigh under the table, subtle, invasive, a reminder. And I'd shift just enough for him to get the message. Back off. After dessert, Gavin excused himself to take a call. Mark leaned in. You're a better actress than I gave you credit for. Good, I said sweetly. Then believe me when I say this. You ever try something like this again, I'll tell Riley everything. And when she's done shredding you, I'll make sure your firm's biggest clients find out how you treat women. His expression hardened. You think anyone would care about the opinion of a fake girl? I smiled. Funny thing about power, Mark. It doesn't come from what's between your legs. It comes from what's between your ears. And you just proved you've got nothing. He glared at me for a long second, and then laughed. I underestimated you. You won't make that mistake again. I left that dinner feeling like I'd just escaped a Shark Tank. But it wasn't fear I felt now, it was adrenaline. Control. Eliza wasn't just a name anymore. She was a shield. A sword. A version of me that refused to be pushed around. When I got home, Riley was waiting with a glass of wine. Well, she asked. I burned him, I said. Politely. She clinked her glass against mine. Good. Because I have something better for you. She handed me an envelope. Inside, a new contract, company email, and a business card with my new title. Eliza Rains, Director of Client Relations. Riley Kessler Luxury Estates. I stared at it for a long time. It shimmered like a crown. Later that night, I stood in front of the mirror, wiping off my makeup slowly, thoughtfully. It wasn't just a costume anymore. The clothes, the heels, the voice, those were tools. But the woman looking back at me? She wasn't pretending. She was becoming real. And her story? Was just getting started.